Time to pull up a chair and talk some Dynasty football. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and this is the Rider Dynasty podcast presented by Gridiron Ratings. Tonight, we dive into the updated Dynasty ADP. Joining me again, my returning champion, a co-host of the Dynasty Dorks Fantasy Football crew. You can find him on Twitter at JFHornets25. It's Justin Farrell. How are you doing, sir?
JJ, my friend, the first round was so good I had to come back for seconds. I appreciate it.
I just couldn't get enough of you and needed you back on. And finally, pulling up a chair for the first time on the Rod Pod is a fantasy analyst for Dynasty Nerds and Yards Per, a proud alum of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, proud Panther over there. You can find her on Twitter at EmpoweredFF. MJ Lefko, how are you doing, Em?
I am fantastic, fellas. I am doing great on this evening. So happy to be here for my first time.
Well, I know we talked about this pre-show. You are the Rod Pod's first female guest.
I could not be more honored to be.
So
I think
welcome
we are
aboard.
breaking ceilings, breaking through the roof.
Yes,
I love
as
it.
long
I'm honored to be here, and thank you for having me and inviting me, and it feels really awesome, and I can't wait to talk about ADP.
Woo! Just don't break ceilings. You know, lumber's expensive right now. I can't fix anything, so go a little bit easy there. All right, before we jump into the episode, we are giving away an autographed DeAndre Swift Lions jersey. All you need to do is leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Once we hit 100 reviews, we will draw a winner. Look for a link to our page on Apple in the show notes. And as always, please do all the typical YouTube podcast stuff, like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment. It helps us grow and provide the content you are looking for. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a bunch of people jumping in. What's up, Mace? What's up, Chris? What's up, Gary? I want to just get right to this because we have a lot to talk about tonight. So last episode, Justin, Dave, Don, and I completed a Dynasty Startup mock. If you missed it, check out the episode on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your content. Tonight, we are going to revisit Dynasty Startup ADP provided by RT Sports and analyze it round by round and player by player and pick who we think is too high and too low. Justin, are you ready?
I am ready to begin.
All right. Now, before I start, I just want to say, I know I joked around about this before the show. My window for Dynasty players used to be a 3-year window. And actually, as of a month ago, I was still at that 3-year. I'm starting to shrink it now into more of a win now mode. Not sure where all this stuff is going. The world's getting a little bit crazy.
I would say.
I'm just going to look for a win now approach. Keep that in mind if you're going to call me a hypocrite or that I changed my mind from the last show. So let's start off with the first round. For those listening on a podcast, first round ADP, we have Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and Javonte Williams, followed by D Swift, CMC, CeeDee Lamb, Austin Eckler, Kyle Pitts, and Joe Mixon. Out of that crew, who do you think is too high?
Oh, I think Najee Harris is too high. I think he definitely needs to go lower. If you think of the Steelers' O-line to start, they're not great. We also have a rookie quarterback, or we have Trubisky, who was unproven. I think it's going to reduce his volume down to 7 and 8. I would put him down to around 7 or number 8.
Okay. That's fair. Completely fair. You have to worry about the number of carries and if it's consistent. Justin, who do you have as too high?
It's got to be Cooper Kupp for me. He's a 29-year-old wide receiver coming off an amazing season. So obviously from a redraft perspective, this would be perfect, right? Cooper Kupp is square in that 4 to 6 range for me on a redraft perspective. But, at 29 years old, even on a 3-year window, he's 31, 32 when he comes out of that 3-year window. So I just don't know. And then Allen Robinson joins that mix, and they're looking at potentially bringing back Odell Beckham next year. So Cooper Kupp, obviously, I'm not downgrading him at all in this upcoming season, but from a dynasty perspective, he's a little bit high.
All right. You can't disagree with that. Like I said previous to the show, he was one of the guys who I was looking at as being a little too old. But, for my choice for being too high, I actually went for somebody who's a lot younger. And I went with Javonte Williams. Now, he is right now the RB3 off the board. And although I don't disagree that he is a first-round pick, I would definitely take Javonte in the first round. I would personally want CMC or Swift, Mixon, possibly Eckler ahead of him right now.
Yes.
I mean, Melvin Gordon's back, even if it's only a 1-year contract. He's an impediment to getting that full workload we want to see, especially from the RB3. So I think I would just drop him a little bit further back in this first round.
I don't disagree. If I can kind of just say something on that too, like, and M can speak to this better than me being in Wisconsin, but like Nathaniel Hackett, what came from a 2 running back system. I mean, you're starting to see that shift from Aaron Jones to AJ Dillon. And so I don't know that they really want to give Javonte Williams a workhorse role at any point. So even if Melvin Gordon exits after this year, do they bring someone else in because it's a 1A, 1B situation?
And they're going to have a lot of opportunity to bring guys in because nobody is giving running back second contracts. So a lot of these vets are going to be looking for work.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree with that. I think that was an excellent point to make. I'm right on board with you fellas.
So now that we said who is too high, who do we think is too low on this list? Who can we bump up a little bit, Em?
I think we could bump up Austin Eckler. He's just 27 years old, but I think he should go higher because he's in a high-powered offense. Not to mention who's throwing him the passes, Herbert. I mean, I just think he's too low on the list. I think we could put him maybe I would say be in between Swift and McCaffrey. So not a major shift, but I'd move him up and I would be moving Javonte Williams down.
Fair enough. Justin.
So I'm gonna stick to the script here, and you'll see a common theme with a lot of the folks that I talk about in tonight's pod with wide receivers. Obviously, PPR, I'm a big time wide receiver guy. CeeDee Lamb. So CeeDee Lamb was my number 1 dynasty wide receiver going into last year. Justin Jefferson obviously kept up his amazing run from his rookie season, so I think he edges CeeDee Lamb for me at just like from a performance standpoint. But CeeDee's still right there, and now he is the unquestioned wide receiver 1 in that Dallas offense. I'd replace CeeDee with Cooper Kupp at this point for sure. I'm taking CeeDee at 5 over Cooper Kupp 7 days a week.
Yeah, I definitely share your CeeDee love. CeeDee is great. That's who I initially had written down because I would do that swap all day. I'd move CeeDee ahead of Kupp. But the person I went with was already said. I'm with MJ. I would put Austin Eckler a little bit higher. I know he's old, but last year he scored 4 more points per game than Najee, 9 more than Javonte, and 5 more than Swift. He doesn't seem to be slowing down. He's a PPR machine because of his receiving work. And I think he can last a little bit longer than a typical running back. So I'm not as concerned about his age.
I never hate Chargers love.
Never can. Gary Van Dyke says he feels better because he just took Harris 2nd overall in a blended mock draft, practicing for best ball.
Yeah, I think what M said is definitely true with Najee with the offense. The only rebuttal I would have on that is Najee Harris is just one of the true workhorse backs that you have in the NFL because everybody's going to that RBBC. So that would be the only thing that I'd maybe take into effect. But like she's right. Like that offensive line isn't very good, and who knows what that quarterback situation does. But volume wise, he should be there, right?
You would hope, but that offensive line and QB situation are a little bit scary. Let's move on to the second round. In the second round, we have Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, and Deebo Samuel, followed by A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Josh Allen. Then we have Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Mark Andrews, Nick Chubb, Cam Akers, and J.K. Dobbins. Mace Riney asks, where is Kelsey? I think he's coming in the next round, my friend, but he's not going in the top 2 rounds of Dynasty Startup ADP. Justin, who do you think is too high of this group?
So Debo's too high for me.
Oh, you took mine.
I just don't. That offense kind of scares me a little bit, just with like who knows where Kyle Shanahan. I mean, he's a savant when it comes to offense, right? But I mean, who knows where he's going to go with the ball? Debo's already said he doesn't want to run that hybrid running back kind of role as much. So without the running back carries, I mean, he still was a really productive guy. I just don't know. There's too much unknown for me to take him at that point.
And he was a beast as the wide back, but the fact that he's already whining a bit, I'm sorry to say whining, I shouldn't put words in his mouth, but about his contract and being used as a running back, like Justin said, I mean, what if he won't go with the flow? I mean, he was gaining major passing and rushing yards. So if he's no longer the wide back, I mean, he's way too high. I would switch him and Devontae Adams personally.
Bumping Devontae up a little bit of your Packer love.
Oh, did my prejudice come through? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I think I saw a little bit of green and yellow busting out. Looking at this list personally, for me, I think AJ Brown is too high. I love AJ Brown. AJ Brown is a throwback receiver to me, just dominating with his size and skill. But Philly did not pass the ball a lot last season, finishing as one of only 2 teams not to pass 500 times last year. He's going to have more competition than he had in Tennessee with Smith, Goddard, Sanders, and Gainwell. Can he develop a great connection with Hurts? I think so. I think they're going to do great things together. But is that going to equal at least 120 targets? I don't think so. I don't see AJ Brown.
Is it okay to disagree with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about AJ Brown.
Well, I think he should be higher, and I think he should go to 18 where Andrews is. I think they're going to start passing more. They have a great, well, not great, but they have a good offensive line. And with Devonta Smith, he's a great wide receiver. He's going to take pressure off of Brown. A lot of one-on-one coverage now, presumably, for AJ Brown. That's what I'm thinking.
And I agree. I agree with all of those points. I just don't think he's going to get the targets needed to put up an elite season.
Do you think he'll catch on to the system?
I think so.
Philly?
I don't think it's that tough of a system to get.
I agree.
I mean, Devonta Smith sort of walked in and was able to nail it. Chris Falcone says, good call, MJ. But yeah, I think he's going to be able to pick it up. I think he's going to work well within the system. And I think they're going to have a great team this year. I just don't know if they're going to produce a high level wide receiver. But that's more of an offensive scheme for me.
His injury history kind of worries me a little bit too. I mean, he's been banged up every year he's been in the league. I mean, I don't want to take anything from his talent, but I just, soft tissue injuries, knee injuries. He's a big physical guy. I hope he doesn't have to deal with that bug his entire career.
I agree. Sometimes you just want to see a guy be able to play healthy, right? I believe everybody tweets it every once in a while, but like turning the injury mode off on Madden, right, always makes it so much better. Now, we talked about who's too high. Got to talk about who's too low on this list. Justin.
I love J.K. Dobbins. Like, from a dynasty perspective, he's not going to help you out this much. I shouldn't say he's not going to help you out much this year. He should be okay 6 weeks in. I think he'll be starting to trend back to more of what we saw with J.K. Dobbins. But this is a guy who shared some carries in college, so he wasn't just like ran into the ground in the college game. And then he's going into an offense where they're always going to be run heavy, especially if they invest into Lamar Jackson like we think they're going to. J.K. Dobbins is going to be good for that 3-year window that we're looking for, JJ. So he's my guy. He's too low.
And they did a great job. I mean, they invested in new tight ends. They invested in the offensive line. They're going back to basics this year. I think that's a great call. Em, who do you have?
I think Justin Herbert's too low. I know I wasn't expecting myself to pick a quarterback, but I mean, he's even yet to show his full potential, and he has a good O-line. I'm thinking Justin Herbert sits a little low here.
Okay. Yeah, can't argue with that. I like Justin Herbert. I think he will be popping up shortly. Now, somebody I think is too low. And again, I fall in love with players and I kind of carry that bag for them the whole time. Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. So 2 reasons, real quick. Brissett's going to be the QB and they're going to need to rely on the run game. So he's going to get the volume. And the offensive line is dramatically improved this year. Nate Polvo from Fantasy Pros wrote a great article. If you haven't checked it, check it out, where he ranks all 32 offensive lines. Very good. But he has them ranked as now the 5th best offensive line in the league. I don't know if I agree that they are the 5th best, but they are much improved. And I would gladly grab Chubb there as the RB11 because I think he has an RB5 or better finish coming.
Can I just say?
Go ahead, Em.
Yeah, can I just say? Oh no, well, I'm on a different topic. So if you guys are still on the topic you're on, continue, and I'll remember what I'm gonna say.
All I was going to say is I think Nick Chubb was cut a little bit from the same cloth as J.K. Dobbins. He's been able to hold his volume down the first couple of years in the league, and I truly believe that Kareem Hunt probably exits Cleveland, maybe not this year, but maybe next year, and it becomes Nick Chubb singularly as a primary back. Dearness Johnson is a nice spell, but I like that pick.
And all I was going to say is I had the most trouble evaluating Mark Andrews only simply because they're a more run-heavy offense, but until they show they'll change the scheme to have Lamar Jackson throw it more, I think Mark Andrews would outrank Kelsey if he got more opportunities like he saw last year, but we know there's going to be regression. But he could get the ball more than he does. Marquise Brown is gone. Bateman, though, is still an unproven commodity, and Devin hasn't proven himself yet. So, I'm just sitting here and I'm up and down with him. So I don't know where you guys are standing with Mark Andrews.
I do have a little fear about Mark Andrews. I mean, it's the often referred to split, right, between when Huntley was in and when Jackson was in. And he did much better with Huntley. He had more targets, more production, obviously. So will Lamar use him more? I don't know. I don't know if I would take Mark Andrews in the 2nd round of a dynasty startup. I don't know if he's that much of a game changer if it's not tight end premium.
I think he's appropriately priced above Kelsey, though, in dynasty.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I can see that with age. I can see that. They're pretty close to me. But I think we're going to see as I hit the next slide that Kelsey shows up shortly. So we have 3rd round ADP. We have Alvin Kamara, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. We have Pat Mahomes, T. Higgins. We have Jalen Waddle, followed by Saquon Barkley, Justin Herbert, Travis Etienne, DK Metcalf, Antonio Gibson, and Ken Walker the 3rd. Don't be confused. Ken Walker the 3rd. MJ, who do you think is too high in this round?
I think Nick Chubb. I'm so sorry to go against you. You're probably never going to have me back, are you?
We'll see.
Okay, we'll see by the end, right? I'm thinking Nick Chubb. I think he should be lower, obviously, because of that's going to be a shared backfield. Kareem Hunt, I think, is just as talented. There's also, not to mention, uncertainty at the QB position. So I would put him around 32 or 33 for me.
Okay, very good. Who do you think is too high, Justin?
So I think it comes into the running back premium here. I'm not sure on Ken Walker. I know a lot of people love the rookie running backs. I love Ken Walker at Michigan State. I thought he was really good, and especially to watch him, was it the Ohio State game where he just went bananas? Somebody he played in the Big Ten. To watch that game, I think it was Michigan actually, was a phenomenal game. But I just don't know what's going to happen with Seattle. I think that's going to be it is going to be the bottom tier offense in the NFL. They're not going to score a whole lot, and without touchdown premium, what is he really going to get you? You got to hope that they're going to turn the page really quickly for Ken Walker to pay off.
Yeah, I can definitely see that with Ken Walker. I was surprised to see him so far up on this list. For me personally, I'm a little shocked I'm not shocked. I wouldn't have Tyreek Hill this high on my list. I'm not a fan of his, but it seems a little high. I would take Waddle before him as an aging speed merchant, right? That I would think the speed would be the first thing that goes. And he's going from the best QB in the league to a bottom half QB.
Right.
Like a new offense, all of those things. I would definitely take Waddle ahead of Hill. So even if I just switch those two, I think Tyreek's too high.
But hold on, Tua's more accurate than Pat Mahomes, apparently.
I did see that.
Apparently.
Yeah. And don't forget, they're in the best shapes of their lives. They've lost a lot of weight, but they added a lot of muscle. All that good off-season stuff. Now, for me, somebody who I think is too low out of this crew is my man Saquon. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the pictures.
Really?
Of him. I mean, that dude seems to have been working out and oiling up this offseason. But I just think that for the Giants, he's going to be the primary running back. He probably is going to be the second on the team in targets. Brian Daboll should be able to bring more out of Daniel Jones than we've seen in the past. And even if he can make him like a 50% version of Josh Allen, I think Barkley's going to eat all day. I think Barkley has legit RB overall one ceiling for this year. And you're getting him around 3. So I think this is way too low for Saquon. Who do you think is low, MJ?
I think T. Higgins is too low. If we think about it, he's wide receiver 1B. He's opposite Jamar Chase. I think his ceiling is so high that he could break through and even go higher. I mean, Joe Burrow is a great QB going into his second year. He gets them to the Super Bowl. They can only get better from last year. And there's so much focus on Mixon and Chase being the alphas. I think he's going to be wide open on the other side of the field.
Yeah, I love that. I love Higgins. I sometimes get concerned because anytime I see 2 wide receivers ranked that high on the same team, like it doesn't work, but it does. Higgins is going to get the targets. He is going to produce. If Chase wasn't on that team last year, we would have been talking about how amazing Higgins was all year, right? Like sometimes having an amazing wide receiver opposite you kind of hinders your reputation. And I think that's what happened. Where are you, Justin?
So in return the favor here, T. Higgins was the one that I was definitely picking out.
I sniped you.
T. Higgins had the targets last year. I think we actually may see a trend where he will be the higher targeted receiver or pass catcher in that offense. And obviously Jamar Chase is just kind of a freak and he can bust big plays and he'll pay off where he is too. But I think T. Higgins is there. The only other one I'd pick out here is probably Travis Etienne. He's very interesting here. 3rd round's probably too high for me, but I still want to bring him up just because we don't know what he's going to look like in that offense. And he's very well positioned in today's NFL, like with the wide zone scheme, because he's just super athletic and he catches the ball very well. So he's one to keep an eye on.
Definitely like Travis Etienne. If they use him as I think they're going to, he has that Austin Eckler upside, right? The CMC, the Deebo Samuel, right? Wide receiver / running back type upside. All right. That was all 2 highs and 2 lows. Let's check out round 4. Now, in the 4th round, we see David Montgomery followed by Fournette, Josh Jacobs, Deontay Johnson, Kittle, Michael Pittman, Burrow, James Conner, Aaron Jones, DJ Moore, Drake London, and A.J. Dillon. There's a couple Packers on this board, so I'm going to let you tell me who is too high in this round.
Well, who's too high? Oh, I think that actually George Kittle is too high. And I think it's pretty simple why. I think because Trey Lance is unproven at consistency and production at the QB position. It's a big unknown how Lance's skill set will translate on the field. Lance is more known for running than his rushing ability, and I think that'll cut into Kittle's targets. So I think he's too high. He's also been injury prone. His durability is in question. So I'm not as quick to draft him as I used to be. I have far less shares of him today.
Yeah, and although I get yelled at by our injury guys not to use the term injury prone, but he seems to be injury adjacent. Like he's always right near an injury or missing a little bit of time. So I too have a little bit of trepidation in drafting Kittle recently.
I like
Justin,
it.
Who do you think is too high?
Deontay Johnson's too high for me. Now in the dynasty range, like I love his talent. I love his ability to separate as a wide receiver. Again, this goes back to the Pittsburgh offense. I'm not sure what Pickett or Trubisky is going to bring to the table. Roethlisberger funneled all the targets to Deontay Johnson. And if you look at the advanced stats, it was really the target volume that really propped him up. It wasn't the touchdowns or the big plays. And so he's a little bit too high in the fourth round because I don't know what's going to happen with that offense.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. That's a huge question mark in Pittsburgh right now. I don't know what's going to happen out there. For me, I kind of went with two players here. MJ, I'm going to apologize ahead of time.
No, you're not taking Dylan, are you?
No, but here's my thing. One of these two, either Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon is too high on this list. I know last year Aaron Jones was almost an RB1 and AJ Dillon was just an RB2. So is it possible they both finish in the top 24 running backs? Yes. Do I think it's possible that it happens again? No. I think losing Devontae Adams is going to clog up a lot of what was open running spaces for these guys. I just can't see them both finishing in the top 24. And if they're not going to be in the top 24, then one of them's too high.
See, I don't get it. And it probably is due in part to my bias, but let me just tell you, good fellas, that I do not draft in favor of my team. That's not what I do. That's not my style, but I'll draft him when he falls right to me. But he's a solid player in a solid offense, and he could easily be better than Aaron Jones this year. He showed so much brilliance last year. And did I mention I'm a Packers fan and I'm not okay with this going lower thing? I think he's too low.
So, like I said, though, I'm not picking on either. I want them both to do well, but I don't think both of them can be here. So if you had to choose, MJ, Sophie's choice, who are you kicking out of this round? Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon?
Aaron Jones that is tough. Yeah, I would probably slash you're making me make this decision?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much this hurts?
A lot.
I guess I'd slash Aaron Jones.
Interesting. Sorry. Age? Is it mostly age?
It's age.
Don't blame me on that one.
The tread on the tires. Dylan is young. He's looking good. He's looking sharp. And it's not just because I'm a Packers fan. I'm a fan. If you look behind me, fellas, I have about 8 autographed jerseys. This is my wide receiver room. They all happen to be wide receivers except Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I have Brett Favre. But yeah. Anyway, sorry about that.
That's all right. Well, you know what? Room. After I made you do the Sophie's choice, I'll let you tell me who is too low on this list. Who would you bump up?
Oh, are you still talking to me?
I am, Em.
Who's too low?
Who's too low?
Who's too low? I think Joe Burrow's too low. I'm choosing another quarterback apparently, but I mean, Cincinnati is a high-powered offense. This one, it gets me. I'm sorry. I just can't get on board with it, especially the fact that his ADP ranking has gone down. I'm not understanding where that's coming from.
You would think with 2 top 12 wide receivers and a top 12 running back.
Right.
I can hear you on that one. Justin, who do you think is too low?
I've got to go with DJ Moore here, and it's probably a flip-flop with Deontay Johnson, maybe even bump him up a little bit more. Obviously, Sam Darnold's the quarterback in Carolina, so that kind of gives you some hesitation. DJ Moore's just 25 years old, and I think a lot of people sleep on the fact that he is that young. David Tepper is a very aggressive owner in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he is not going to continue to put a losing product on the field. So I anticipate that they will be very aggressive in the quarterback market. They will bring someone better in, if not this year, next year. And DJ Moore could be a big steal in a dynasty draft because he's a volume hog, plus he's super athletic.
And productive. Despite having terrible QB play, he's productive. For me, somebody who I think is too low is Michael Pittman.
I love it.
That's a good one. I love that.
I mean, Pittman was what? He was wide receiver 17 with Carson. Jesus is the only coach I need. Another year in the system, third season. Matty Ice is his QB. I mean, I think we're going to see Pittman close to his ceiling this year. I'm looking forward to see what he can do. And I would definitely put him above anybody in this round and a couple guys in the previous round.
I'm just hoping he doesn't fall victim to the Matty Ice touchdown just wasteland.
You mean where he gets tackled inside the 5 12 times?
Like, he gets the Julio Jones treatment, like he just gets peppered with targets but can't get in the end zone for some reason.
Yeah, that was always a magical thing with Julio. Never quite understood that when he had those seasons. All right, so we did the two lows. Let's take a look at the next round, shall we? All right, we have big money Terry McLaurin, followed by Zeke, Elijah Mitchell, Lamar Jackson, Darren Waller, and Kyler Murray. Finishing up the second half of the fifth round, we have Evans and Godwin, the teammates back-to-back, followed by Treylon Burks, Keenan Allen, Darnell Mooney, and Garrett Wilson. Justin, who is too high on this list?
Elijah Mitchell, and take it to the bank. Way too high.
Way too high.
I was thinking about this last night, and this is our problem, right? We sit in the bed and we think about fantasy at night, and it's like, what's going on? But like, what is different from Elijah Mitchell and Chase Edmonds? If you really think about it, like I was sitting there thinking, like, there's not a ton of difference other than age. So if you tell me age and you're drafting him in Dynasty, I still will say the fifth round is way too early. But one, he kind of got banged up last year. You never know who Kyle Shanahan's going to give the ball to, and I just don't like that situation, and I would not take him in the fifth round of a dynasty draft.
100% on board with you. 100% on board. MJ, who do you have as too high?
As too high. Okay, every time you ask me that, I have to make sure I hear the high or the low because this is a really important question. I can't get it confused. So who's too high?
Who's too high?
Who's too high? This is a tougher list, but I think Chris Godwin should definitely be lower. I mean, when he comes back, he's not even fully recovered. He's probably going to start on the PUP list, and he's going to be competing for touches with Evans and Gage when he comes back. So I think he's too high. What do you guys think?
It might be one of those situations where they both can't be this high. I know they have in the past. I don't know, though. I'm a Pennsylvania kid, so Godwin's a Penn Stater, so I kind of have to support him, and I'm not going to say anything bad about Evans. So
I'll talk about Evans here in a little while if I don't steal anybody's.
All right. Well, let me tell you who I'm.
You've sniped me once.
Uh-oh. So I think Treylon Burks is too high.
Agree.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. There's too much noise out of camp about conditioning, missing practices. Yeah. And I know we heard all about the drops last year with Chase, and we're not supposed to listen to what they're saying. I'm not talking about drops. I'm talking about a practice. Practice. If you can't practice in the offseason, if your conditioning is questioned, I'm going to question if you really have the drive to make it in the NFL. So I'm just saying that. I hope he does. I'm an eternal pessimist, but I hope the best for everybody. But I don't think I can count on him. So there's no way in hell I'm touching him in the first round.
it's kind of sickening me because I do have quite a few shares of him in my dynasty leagues. But can I talk about Garrett Wilson as being too low?
Sure.
I would love to. I think we should move him higher to about 55. That's what I would do. My list might be a little bit different from yours. I started with the one from week 1, but based on his college production profile, it's a young offense. It's a better offensive line than Tennessee. You have Elijah Moore on the other side. You have Corey Davis. You have Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Breece Hall is going to be a 3-down back probably. And if Zach Wilson improves, Garrett Wilson to me is a top 5 wide receiver.
That's your question mark, though, Zach Wilson.
I know there's a question mark there.
I heard I was listening to a pod, I think with Andrew Erickson and Sig Bloom, and they were talking about bad offenses and about drafting people from bad offenses.
Right.
And there are so many good offensive players on the Jets, and it all and I'm a Jets fan. That's my team. It all circles around the Wilson. Is Wilson going to be able to support them?
Right.
If he can make the step, they got everything they need to compete. But I was out on him as a rookie. I didn't want him drafted. I was a Justin Fields guy. I'm still a Justin Fields guy. I didn't want Wilson. So I'm just hoping. And I hope Garrett Wilson, because he's a great wide receiver, and I was stoked that the Jets got him.
I mean, I draft from strong teams too. So I don't have a ton of shares of him, but I just think he's too low on the list.
I agree. I thought he was the clear number 1 receiver in the draft. I know he didn't go number 1, but he was my clear number 1. Justin, who do you have?
Oh, it's Mike Evans. So I'll talk about Mike Evans here. So he's at least a round too low here, even in Dynasty. He'll be 29 years old this year, but you're talking about a guy who's gone 7 or 8 consecutive years with 1,000 yards receiving. I believe I have been on record, at least talking to Dave and some of the folks over at Dynasty Dorks, that I think Mike Evans could flirt with the touchdown record this year from a redraft perspective. So I'm all about it. Obviously, Tom Brady could retire and it could go downhill, but he also had Jameis Winston throwing the ball around. I think that offense is going to be fine. He's going to be a guy that will give you production. And in the 5th round, you get a monster year potentially this year, and then some pretty good years after that. And it's okay. It's our 3-year window, right, JJ?
Absolutely. He is so consistent. And that's the thing about Evans. It doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. He was great before Brady, right? He'll be great after Brady.
Maybe they'll just move him to tight end, right? That's what all the wide receivers are doing. They'll move him to tight end after Brady leaves because he'll get older and he'll be fine.
Everybody can be a tight end, right? So who's too low on this list? We named a lot of these guys as too high, but who else is too low? You said Wilson. You guys said this. I'm sorry. I didn't say my guy. My guy is Zeke. Once again, guys who I've drafted as rookies, they kept on my team for a long time. I sort of fall in love with them. Zeke played through injury and finished as the RB7. He is currently going off the board as RB25. Stop it. He was hurt last year and put up an RB7 season. I don't know. Everyone loves Pollard, but I'm not into it. Zeke is still the main guy in that backfield, and I can't wait to see what he does this year. I think if you can get Zeke in the 5th, you're getting 2 to 3 more years of solid production out of him. And I would take that every day of the week. So that's my guy. Sorry for
you have a big heart. You have a big heart,
do.
JJ.
And once I latch on to somebody, I don't let him go. I don't let him go.
That's a great quality to have.
All right. So for the 6th round, we start off with the Debbie Dirtbag's favorite guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, followed by Amari Cooper, James Cook, TJ Hockenson, Jameson Williams, CEH. Back end of the 6th, we have Dak, Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, Jerry Jeudy, and Devonta Smith. Who is too high, Justin?
TJ Hockenson, and it's kind of a layup from a tight end perspective, but I think I'm out on TJ Hockenson. There's too many weapons in that offense now. He's had plenty of he's had plenty of opportunities to really kind of pop up, like just kind of pop. And he really hasn't done it for us, even though we think he has a good athletic profile. He's kind of like George Kittle in the fact that like he's kind of that prototypical tight end. Because I'd say George Kittle from a talent perspective, receiving the ball, blocking, all the intangibles, George Kittle's probably the number one tight end. He can't stay healthy and he's not in the right system. TJ Hockenson's close behind him and he's just too high here.
Yeah, that's the guy who I also had as too high. I was torn between him and James Cook. But I mean, I've fallen out of love with TJ. I'd much rather have Goddard, Freiermuth, and even Kmet over Hawk. I think they have a much higher upside than he does. I think Justin kind of says that he's just blah. Like he's been given the opportunity to dominate on that team. They don't have a lot of talent. And he didn't. So I don't know. When somebody tells you who they are, you probably should listen. So
is
there an opportunity?
That's a good slogan.
Yeah, I don't know. Who do you think is too low, Em?
I think, who's too low?
Too high.
No, too high.
A Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City. I think their backfield is so murky. People are really high on Isaiah Pacheco right now. And if Isaiah Pacheco's talent and skill set are better than CEH, I'm thinking CEH may lose the RB1 status. So I just think this could be Isaiah Pacheco could be a really sneaky pick, a late round pick.
Yeah, I wish I could like draw a graphic of like the roller coaster that is CEH, because I started in like April this year, like going this way with CEH, and then it was like down.
Yeah.
And then it started to go up again, and then they signed Jerick McKinnon, so it went back down. Like,
right.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
It definitely is.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about CEH. I get confused in general about the Kansas City offense, and I know Pat Mahomes kind of took them to the next level. But having been in Pennsylvania and watched Philadelphia under Andy Reid, sometimes I just question what he does offensively. I know he's an offensive genius. I know all of that. But sometimes when you watch his stubbornness, when he sticks to players in certain roles that aren't producing, how he uses running backs, I get so confused at how Andy Reid deploys his running backs. And maybe CEH is just garbage. I mean, right? There's a non-zero chance that that's true. But they invested a lot in him in draft capital. And I don't know.
It's like a complete shift, right? Like, I mean, what his calling card, Andy Reid, was workhorse back. Like when he was in Philly, workhorse back. And then he gets over to Kansas City. You had Jamal Charles. We were gifted with, we had Kareem Hunt for his rookie year. And then now he's completely shifted and he's completely invested into Patrick Mahomes as our offense. And I don't really care who's in the backfield. We're going to use a bunch of different people. So deal with it.
Yeah, I don't know how that makes me feel. I get nervous.
It's tough.
But all right, so who's too low then in the 6th round? Who do we think should get a bump from here?
Am I up? Is it ladies first this round?
It is.
Okay.
It's ladies' choice. Sadie Hawkins.
It's because I was the first female guest on your show. I get to go first this round, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I think Devonta Smith is too low, and I think that it's primarily because of the presence of AJ Brown. I really don't agree with this one, him going down in value, especially because AJB, like I talked about with a similar situation in the earlier rounds with the wide receiver, AJB is going to assume the defensive coverage. Smith is going to be open. I'm saying throw the shorts to Smith and it's going to, the slants. I mean, I just think he's too low. And
he's so fast. He's
off
the line.
Speedy. He is so speedy. Yes.
Yeah, I like that call. Justin, where are you going?
So I'm going to take the homer layup here and go Mike Williams. The Chargers just invested in him this year. He's got the 3-year contract in the bag. Keenan Allen is in his age 30 season, so he is going to unfortunately probably hit that wall at some point. I think Mike Williams could start to creep closer to the wide receiver one for the Chargers and take that over for the next couple of years. So in the 6th round, I'm willing to make that investment.
So in Dynasty, I'll ask the two of you a trade question. I was offered a trade. I'm in a league where I have ridiculous wide receivers, and Mike Williams is my 4th or 5th wide receiver. And I was offered, I need a quarterback. Somebody offered me Jimmy G and a 23 second for Mike Williams. And I said no.
Can you repeat what the trade was?
Jimmy Garoppolo and
Okay.
a 23 second. So their next
23
year's
second.
second for Mike Williams.
2 or 3 wide
What?
receiver.
3 wide receiver.
That's an
Super
ugly
flex?
deal.
Super flex.
It's ugly.
It is
I know.
ugly,
It
but
is
it's
ugly,
a second.
but he's expendable.
He is expendable
with your roster.
But I don't know if Jimmy G's going to start this year anywhere.
I know,
Right.
that's the hard part.
That's exactly right.
I turned it down and countered
Good.
with Stafford for Mike Williams.
I'm glad
I don't
you
see
did
that getting accepted. But
I like that one.
yeah, that's a good league for me for wide receivers, but no QBs. It's terrible. All right. Who we did the 2 lows.
Yep.
I'm going to do the same thing I did with the Green Bay running backs. My choice for 2 low is between 2 guys. It's either Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy or possibly both. So DK and Lockett last year finished as the wide receiver 14 and 16, right? Terrible running game, poor offensive line, finished both in the top 24. Their QB leaves for Denver, and his new wide receivers are now the wide receiver 27 and wide receiver 30. Something's wrong, right? We know Wilson can support higher end wide receivers. So one of these 2 has to be going high. I think they're easily as talented as DK and Lockett. And I think they're both going to outperform this ADP. If you had to choose M, I like making you choose.
I realized you just made my eyes pop out of my head. I was not ready.
It's okay. Between Jeudy and Sutton, who's going to have the better year?
Sutton.
Justin?
I agree. I think he's got the touchdown capital. He's that big body that Russ is going to like to throw the ball to.
Well,
I don't know that Jeudy profiles as the Tyler Lockett replacement for Russell Wilson. Now, he's going to be in the slot. He's a really good route runner, but he's not to take the top off and really explode for 3 touchdowns like Tyler Lockett would do and frustrate the hell out of all of us.
Well, it would be nice if KJ Hamler came along a little bit quicker. KJ Hamler has that speed. I don't know if Tim Patrick does. We're going to see a little bit later. We're going to talk about
the great Tim Patrick.
The great Tim Patrick. I don't know. I think I would go with Jeudy, but listen.
Whoa.
Only because Jerry Jeudy, JJ.
He's not Justin Jefferson.
Oh, no, he's not. I'd rather Justin Jefferson. All right, let's take a look at round 7. We have Miles Sanders, Dalton Schultz, followed by Bateman, Olave, Singletary, Elijah Moore, back half Jalen Hurts, Damian Harris, Damian Pierce, Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard, and Dallas Goedert. Round 7, M, who's too high?
I think Miles Sanders is too high. I personally am really low on Miles Sanders. I mean, if you look at his consistency reports from the last 3 years, and if you look at his fantasy points scored per game or for the season, the last 3 seasons, it is so low. I mean, I just don't know when we're going to see the explosiveness out of him, when we're going to see him. I just think that he's got running backs behind him that are better pass catchers that are going to eat into his time. He's just way too high for me.
That's fair. He just can't stay healthy.
No, he can't.
We've talked about that before. Being in Pennsylvania, we have lots of Eagles fans, and he just misses quarters. And I think that's eating up his time. Something interesting with Miles Sanders, there was an interview that he just did where he said not to draft him in fantasy because he doesn't get enough touches. and he sounded like legitimately upset about the fact that he never knows when he's going to get the ball.
At some point, he's got to get some positive touchdown regression in his career, right? At some point. Holy
You
cow.
would think it would happen, but it hasn't happened. And his consistency reports are just despicable. I'm so low on him. Oh my goodness. I'm so biased. I'm sorry. Don't count my answer.
Nope. Count it. Justin, who do you think is too high?
It's got to be Damian Harris. I mean, I'm just really done with Damian Harris. I don't know what, you never know what's going to happen in the New England offense, especially in the running back room. And Damian Harris gives no upside from a PPR perspective. So unless he falls in the end zone and has a LeGarrette Blount 16 to 18 touchdown year, what does he really bring you?
Fair enough. Yeah, I just think in the running back by committee, I'll take the cheaper back every time. And it's not Damian Harris. For me, it's Dalton Schultz. I might know nothing. That's an old person joke, Hogan's Heroes. But I think Schultz is a little too high in ADP for me. I just don't buy his talent. I think he has opportunity, but not the ability.
And especially because we can't even guarantee he's going to be here next year with Dallas.
True.
So the uncertainty of where he's going to be next year, he could land up in a landing spot that's worse for him. So that was a good call. I agree with that 100%.
Well, who are you too low on then, Em? Or not? Who is too low on ADP?
Who's too low? So who should be higher?
Yes.
Okay. Tony Pollard of Dallas, running back. I think he should be higher. I think we should swap him with Miles Sanders. I think he's going to assume more carries, and I think it's going to be 50-50 to keep Zeke healthy. So I'm looking for Tony Pollard to be his ADP to be on the rise this year.
Wow. That hurt.
Did I take yours? Oh, Zeke.
He's a Zeke guy.
Sorry.
It's okay. Justin, if you could run the pod for a second, just do your low. I just need a minute. Don't mind me.
Yeah, for me, it's Chris Olave. I mean, I love Chris Olave's talent. Loved it at Ohio State. I think him and Garrett Wilson are really just multi-talented wide receivers. They were really good route runners. They had athletic ability to take the top off defenses. I don't know what's going on with Michael Thomas's ankle. Like, it just continues to pop up and pop up and pop up. I've been a guy that can't let go of Michael Thomas, and it's burned me for the last 2 years. And I just think Chris Olave is a guy that can step right into a wide receiver one role. And that offense hasn't really changed a whole lot. They just haven't had a guy like Michael Thomas in it. So if Michael Thomas doesn't come back, can Chris Olave potentially be that? And he's got the pedigree.
I agree. Michael Thomas baffles me. I don't get it at all. Just to see somebody who was so good for his first 4 years disappear.
He had to have shredded that ankle. Part of me just wants to look at what does the X-ray and the MRI look like in that ankle? Because wow.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I think Rashad Bateman is too low. I was a little wishy-washy on that choice, but Hollywood's gone. Somebody has to be the wide receiver one. I think he's going to get peppered with targets. I don't know. I think he has a chance of outperforming this ADP. I mean,
so JJ, I got to ask you on this because I have an unpopular opinion that I am not an Elijah Moore truther. So what are your thoughts on Elijah Moore? Obviously, he's a pretty talented guy. I'm more talking about redraft here because Dynasty, I think this is probably an appropriate ranking for him. But
I have to say, before I said Schultz, my choice for too high was Elijah Moore. I love Elijah Moore.
So do I.
I just hate the Jets offense. I hate Zach Wilson
so
much.
I do. And the addition of rookie Garrett Wilson, and then we have Zach Wilson again. We're bringing him up. It's just so frustrating.
So
it's like the QB is such a big position. Why is there such uncertainty? Why can't they get it straight? I don't understand the system.
I just hope he takes the next step, or the NFL changes to a 7-on-7 league because supposedly he kills in 7-on-7. It's only when he's pressured does he make bad decisions.
If you watch his combine tape, I mean, he can make every throw on the field possible.
Even his workout, right? Oh, my Lord. All right. Let's go to the next round before you make me cry. We got Zeke and Elijah Moore slander. Eighth round, we have Brandon Cooks, Deshaun Watson, Gabriel Davis, Allen Robinson, Pat Fryermuth, Sky Moore, Russell Wilson, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Michael Carter, Christian Watson, and Michael Thomas. M, who's too high?
Who's too high? Okay, so who needs to go lower?
Yep.
Okay. See, I still have to work that out in my head. Deshaun Watson needs to go lower, but we'll leave him alone. Only because I don't want to go there with my mind. But DeAndre Hopkins, he's too high. He's already he has the suspension, excuse me. And when he comes back, we don't even know if he's gonna be wide receiver 1. There's so much uncertainty there. I just think he's too high.
That's fair. I actually went with your first choice, Deshaun Watson. He's undraftable for me. I know you go on Twitter and there's a lot of argument back and forth about, well, it's just fantasy, but I take a moral stance with some players.
Me too.
I came to fantasy football by listening to Bloom and Waldman, and they always talked about drafting teams that you can cheer for. And at the end of the day, I can't cheer for Watson. I don't want him on my team. It's one of the reasons I don't have Tyreek Hill on a lot of my teams. I don't have Frank Clark on my ID. Like, there's a lot of guys who I avoid because it's just so egregious.
Did I ever tell you? I think I love you. I think I love you.
But what am I so afraid of? Who do you think, Justin, is too high on this list?
I was going to go Allen Robinson, but I have to go Juju Smith-Schuster. I hate to just be a broken record, but I'm just done with Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't care about his antics on TikTok and all of the stuff that he seems to care more about than playing football. I'm all for that, right? Like, you're building your brand, you're building fandom and stuff like that. So that's what we're all here for. It's the entertainment of the National Football League. You got to perform. You cannot do that and then get blown up by the Cincinnati Bengals. And just because he's gone over to the Pat Mahomes offense, I'm not sold that he's going to really be a good pick. And so in the 8th round, I'm not taking that shot.
Yeah, I agree. I'm all for guys having fun. I love when guys talk trash, but you got to back it up. Yeah, you got to back it up. So who is too low on this list, Justin?
I probably got to back it up here, and it's kind of your conundrum that we've talked about in a couple rounds, right? It's Juju Smith-Schuster in the same round as Sky Moore, and Sky Moore is definitely too low for me right here because I loved his talent coming out of college. Was really upset when he went to the Chiefs as a Chargers fan because I thought he was very talented, and I thought they got a steal in the 2nd round when they drafted him. Profiles as a high catch guy and is also athletic, kind of sneaky athletic. So he's an awesome replacement for someone like a Tyreek Hill. Not that he is Tyreek Hill, but he's going to be someone that can really come into that offense and pop.
Em, who do you have?
I have Russell Wilson. I think it's obvious because he's the professor. So
but
I
you
could
love the
really
quarterback.
end my sentence.
You love the quarterbacks.
What? I do, don't I? I do love the quarterbacks, but my favorite quarterback is Justin Herbert, just to put it out there. But he brings everybody in the offense up. He boosts the entire team. He's such a prolific passer. We're going to see a completely new team, and I'm so excited to see the division. It's going to be so rad this year.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think we're too low on Brandon Cooks. I mean, if he appears in 15 games, he puts up 1,000 yards and 5 TDs, right? Every year, only his rookie year and the year that the Rams had the Super Bowl swoon and Jared Goff went into the tank, did he not appear in 15 games, and he didn't hit either of those metrics. He's going to lead
he's Mike Evans miniature, right?
Yeah, he is. Except, I mean, I know he's had a ton of concussions, but he doesn't miss a lot of time. He's going to be a wide receiver 2 or better this year, so this is way too low for him. Let's look at round number 9. We have Stafford, Isaiah Spiller, Trey Lance. Multiple QBs. What's M's going to do? Brandon Ayuk, Rashad Penny, Hunter Renfrow, followed by Rashad White, Chase Edmonds, Ramondre Stevenson, Chase Claypool, Dawson Knox, and Christian Kirk. All right, M, who is too high in round 9?
Who is too high? Who needs to go lower? Brandon Ayuk, for the same reasons as I would talk about for Kittle going lower. Inconsistent, unproven quarterback play in Trey Lance. I rest my case.
Here, no objections. Sustained. Justin, you're up.
It's got to be Hunter Renfrow for me. Same kind of thing. He's got a lot more mouths to feed in that offense, and he was awesome to close the year last year. He's a fantastic route runner, but I just think he's going to take a back seat to Waller and Devontae Adams, and that's going to be tough for him. Although it should be shootout, so he may get, he could be some volume, but in the 9th round, he doesn't give you a lot of dynasty value.
Yeah, looking at this round for me, I kind of said nobody really is too high. Like, they all seem about appropriate. Renfrow was the one I said if I had to name somebody, but he's going off as the wide receiver 44. That's about right.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that, right? A wide receiver 4. So I'm going to pass. Who are we too low on, M?
I'm picking Rashad White out of Tampa Bay. I'm saying this because Tampa Bay is a high-powered offense. Not to mention their O-line is very good. The defensive coverage is going to be focused on Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, as we know, he's the GOAT, and he's such a great passer. But if Fournette gets injured for any reason, Rashad White is in line to take over. There's volume in passing and rushing, and if they get ahead in games, they're going to rest Brady and run the ball more. So there's going to be a higher volume of carries for the running backs in Tampa Bay.
I love that pick. Justin, who do you think is too low?
So Jerry, I kind of took the same view with you in this round. Everybody seems a little bit appropriate here. I will point out Christian Kirk in the 9th round only because I'm going to follow the money when it becomes to a round like this. So if I was looking at these are the availables in the 9th, Christian Kirk's probably someone I might take a shot on. He's got an up and coming, we hope, quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and they just paid him a boatload of money, so they're going to see what he's got.
It's a little late for a wide receiver 1 to be coming off the board, even if it is a Jags wide receiver 1.
Yeah, right.
I went with Penny. I can't believe I'm arguing for Penny. I can't believe it. But 37 is low for the guy who's going to be either the presumed starter or the lead back in a running back by committee. He should be the lead back. I don't see Ken Walker taking it away. I don't think Chris Carson is going to be taking it away. But I'd rather take a shot on Penny in the 9th than Walker in the 3rd. Agreed. It just seems like a better value for me overall. Moving on to round 10. We start with George Pickens, followed by Brady, Tyler Algier, Kadarius Toney, Jahan Dotson, and Rojo, followed by T-Law, Madison, Melvin Gordon, James Robinson, Derek Carr, and Adam Thielen. Who is too high on this list? M?
Who's too high on this list? Brian Robinson Jr. out of Washington. I think because of the J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson split, I think that's why Gibson's numbers have dipped too. I think there's too many mouths to feed, and with the split that they run in that scheme, it's gonna draw Robinson out.
Interesting. Where are you at, Justin?
Tyler Algier. I think the fantasy community loves Tyler Algier because there's a path to volume. And so, 10th round, you probably take a lottery pick, but maybe in redraft for me, but probably not 10th round, but not in Dynasty. I don't think he has a big future. He'll be a backup. Don't get me wrong. He'll play, but
I'm with you on that. Now, for me, somebody I think is too high. I promised myself I would never say a negative word about this QB because I just wanted him to retire and leave the AFC East. I got both of my wishes. He left the AFC East, won a Super Bowl. Then he retired. I was so excited. Now he's returned, but I'm going to stick to my promise. So Tom Brady is not being drafted too high. This is the perfect spot in a dynasty league for a soon-to-be 45-year-old QB. I'm 47, and I definitely feel like I could still play. This is not too high for Brady. I was being sarcastic, just for the record. This is too high for Brady. I mean, he's 45. Going to be 45 in a month and a half. That's high.
He looks great, though.
He does.
Doesn't he?
Stop. No, but he's out. All right. Who's too low?
Ronald Jones the second out of Kansas City. I think this year he's going to have a much bigger and enhanced role. So he's definitely higher, depending on how they utilize him, of course. But he could easily outperform Clyde Edwards-Helaire, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's pretty. I would give that a 60-40 shot of happening.
Yeah,
I like Rojo to outperform him. Who are you at, Justin?
So I don't think anybody's too low. I think in these rounds you want to pick out some guys, and the one that I would pick out is I want age, so I want youth, and I want upside. And so Kadarius Toney's one that I pick out because we saw what he did. We see the ceiling. He may be a drop candidate at some point because he just can't get it together, but he's got stupid athleticism, and he's a guy that why am I blanking on the Giants' new coach? Daboll is going to try to get the ball in his hands. So he's a guy I would kind of highlight here.
All right. For me, I'm going with Adam Thielen. I know Adam Thielen's old.
That was mine.
But he was the wide receiver 28 last year in total points, and he only appeared in 13 games. He was the wide receiver 16 in points per game for receivers who appeared in 2 or more games. He's going off the board as wide receiver 50. He's not dead. I think his game is not dependent on like athleticism as much as it is route running and precise route running. And I think that offense, from everything Justin Jefferson has said, it's going to be a much higher volume passing offense. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do over the next year or two. And I would definitely take him before this. Who did you have, Em?
For too high or too low? I forget.
Too low. You were with Thielen as well?
Oh, too low. Yeah, I was going to go with Thielen as well. So you pulled him from me. You sniped me, JJ.
I got you. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry. I'll try better next time.
Okay.
All right, let's check round 11. Second to last round, we have Aaron Rodgers, Tyler Lockett, Michael Gallup, Justin Fields, David Bell, Cordarrelle Patterson, Zach Ertz, Brian Robinson, Cole Kmet, Zamir White, Alan Lazard, and Kenneth Gainwell. Em, who is ranked too high?
Cordarrelle Patterson out of Atlanta. I think he should be lower, not just because of his age, but I don't think there's any chance in hell he repeats his performance from last year. Not to mention he is no longer going to serve as the wide back. He's only going to serve as the running back from this point on. And also he may have one more good year in him, but they have Tyler Algier there now. And I think Tyler Algier is going to creep up.
That's fair. Justin?
I think I'm pretty easy on this one. I just want to highlight one player. I don't think anybody's high or low. It's just Michael Gallup. I think Michael Gallup is one to look at in the 11th round. He's not going to help you out in the beginning of the year, but that wide receiver 2 in the Dallas offense has been really good, and it's going to be a high-volume pass offense as long as Kellen Moore is at the helm. So he's a guy that I would definitely look at in the 11th round. Still young. ACLs aren't going to keep him out for too long, hopefully.
I agree. I thought Cordarrelle Patterson was too high as well. Anybody who we think is too low? MJ?
Too low. I can't say that I see anyone on this list that I think is too low.
The only one for me was Cole Kmet. 93 targets. He has a better coach, offensive coordinator coming to town. All he has to do is add a couple TDs and he shoots up the board. I think he has tight end 6 or higher. upside this year, so I would definitely take him ahead of this.
Tight end
Justin.
6.
That's a bold prediction.
Really?
I think it is. So
Tight
yeah.
end 6. I like his talent. It's all about touchdowns with tight ends, right?
It is.
Yeah,
and he had
all
no
about the red
touchdowns
zone,
last year.
baby.
He had
All
no
about the red
touchdowns.
zone.
So if he gets to 5, I think we're seeing a tight end 6. But we'll see what happens. Who knows? Did you have somebody, Justin?
Right. It sounds like you have shares of him, so I'm rooting for you.
Just a few.
Just a few.
The only one I'd say is maybe too low is I think people are sleeping on Tyler Lockett a little too hard. He's
That's
got the
true.
unfortunate luck of Drew Lock or
Geno
Smith as his quarterback, but he's still a very talented wide receiver. They still paid him. They're still going to throw the ball. 11th round, scoop up as many Tyler Lockett's in the 11th round as you can.
Yeah, if you can walk out with Lockett, Gallup, like out of this round, you're doing pretty well. Final round. Anybody stand out to you here? We have Robert Woods, Alec Pierce, John Mechie, Rondale Moore, Mike Gesicki, Davis Price from San Francisco, Darrell Henderson, Khalil Herbert, Irv Smith Jr., Noah Fant, Tua, and Kirk Cousins. MJ, anybody too high for you?
Anybody too high for me?
I said no personally. I thought these guys are all.
I can't find one.
Justin, what about you?
No.
Anybody too low, do you think?
Yeah, actually. Alec Pierce might be too low. I think we could swap him all the way to like 121. I think he's going to fit in really well with the Colts. Matt Ryan, the defense has to keep track of Jonathan Taylor. He could easily be a standout number 2 to Michael Pittman. I see a path for that happening.
I would like that. And lots of my rookie drafts would like that too. Justin, anybody for you?
I think Bobby Trees is too low. I think he's going to start the season, and I'd probably take him 12th round. I'd probably take him 10th or 11th, depending on what my team looked like, because he's just shown he's always, if he's your wide receiver 4, that's a really good wide receiver 4, and he's going to be the wide receiver 1 in Tennessee. I mean, it's not going to be Treylon Burks, newsflash. So at least for the next 2 years, it's not Treylon Burks, and so I think Bobby Trees is a good one to look at.
Yeah, and like we said about Christian Kirk, if you're getting a team's wide receiver 1 in the 12th round, you're doing pretty good. I went with Kirk Cousins only because
I like it.
I believe in Justin Jefferson.
Me too.
I believe in Adam Thielen. I
Amen.
think KJ Osborne showed up last year and performed very well, and a healthy Dalvin. So I think he's a lock to be a QB, high-end QB2, low-end QB1, right where Cousins always finishes. And I think this is QB 18 right now where he's coming off the board. So
I'm with you, JJ.
I might snatch him up a little bit earlier. All right. Well, we made it through all of the rounds. Thank you to both of you. But it is now time for tags. So you're going to tell everybody where they can find you. Any final thoughts at anything that you are working on? MJ.
I am currently working on an article for Dynasty Nerds. So I write I will podcast for Yards Per. I have my own podcast coming out called Hustlers Fantasy Football Podcast coming out in September. I'm also working on an article for Dynasty Nerds in which I'll talk about late round alternatives, flyers, and sleepers. So that's going to be a very interesting article. So stay tuned for that. And formerly writer of Fantasy Six Pack. So I have a lot of material under there too. I also have recently been invited to write for Bob Lung in his consistency reports on his website. So that's a big thing. And I'm aiming to get on with Joe Piaspia on Fantasy Pros. So I'm hoping to send him this and he'll accept me. So I have big dreams.
Fantastic. Yeah. She's at MPoweredFF. Fantastic Twitter handle, by the way. And her podcast is at Hustlers FF on Twitter. Make sure you follow them both. Justin.
Well, Em is a tough act to follow. She's got a lot of stuff going, and I appreciate her grind. So typically you can find me over with the DDFF family and Dynasty Dorks. Dave is my man. I always have to shout him out. I also do some stuff over at We Know Fantasy. We're a little bit on the slow side with football right now because we're doing a lot of golf things. But I hope to pick up a lot this year with the sports betting side and kind of just getting back into the football swing of things. And the thing that I'm going to leave everyone with is to start the drum roll going. Sammy Watkins week 1. Everybody be looking for Sammy Watkins in the redraft league.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, that's bold too. That's very bold, my brother.
Only week 1. Only week 1.
Only week 1.
Oh, okay. Only week 1.
Only week 1.
Then I get it.
All right. Thank you to Em, Justin, for joining us tonight. Make sure you're following them on Twitter. Check out their latest content. They're great people, and they're great, and they know their football. Thank you to Nate Paulvolt and Archie Sports for letting me use their content tonight. You can find me on Twitter at JJWenner. Be sure to check out thegridironratings.com for all of our content. Check out Getting Defensive tomorrow night at 8 p.m. where Gary and I chat with Football Guys writer Jeff Hazley about the IDP tier breakouts. The Chop Shop is on Saturday. Make sure you tune into that. And next week, the Rod Pod, Dave and I welcome auction king and legal guru Drew Davenport to talk some auction strategy. So from all of us to all of you, be safe, be well, and as always, boat drinks, my friends, boat drinks.